Okay, hello, John Dove here from the Advocacy Club. We've just had our first meeting of 2024. So this was our public speaking meeting. I've been watching some of the presentations, so I'm just going to share some tips and feedback based on what I've seen. And the general sort of focus for tonight's session was all about how to build rapport with the audience. So I'll start with the beginning of the presentation. And the start of your presentation is arguably the most important part because this is your chance to bring in the audience. You know, you want to build that first impression, and you've probably heard it before, the first impressions last. And the same thing goes for a presentation. So if your opening isn't enlightening, it doesn't grab the attention of the audience, well, they're not likely to carry on listening. So I saw a few different ways that presentations were started tonight. And the general feedback I was giving is that you need to either open with, sort of a bold statement about what you're going to be talking about, or maybe ask a rhetorical question that's linked to your presentation, something that will pique the interest of the audience and get them to think all about what you're going to be talking about. Then once you've done that, once you've grabbed the attention of the audience, you want your sort of presentation to follow a natural structure. Um, what a few people were doing tonight is they were signposting where their presentations were going within the introduction. So they said, well, I'm going to be covering these 3 points within my presentation. And I think that's quite a nice way of rounding off your introduction so the audience know what the presentation's all about. They've got that little bit of a roadmap there. Um, Even when you're doing that, though, you need to maintain confidence throughout. So I was watching one presentation where somebody said, well, within my presentation, I'm going to cover 3 points. The first one is X, the second one is Y, and within my third point, I'm going to try and give you a flavor of Z. And I said, it was a good opening, good introduction, but I'd avoid the use of the phrase try to, because it's a little bit negative. It's like, well, I'm going to have a go of. Ultimately, you're the speaker, you're the presenter, you're the person that people are there to listen to. So you need to be confident in what you're doing. And, if you're not confident in what you're saying, why should the audience be confident in the information that you're going to portray? So anything you say it in a positive light. We then jump on and people were going through the sort of main elements of their presentations. So in terms of general sort of public speaking tips for there, key thing is the pace. Bring it down. It's very easy in day-to-day life for lots of us to speak very, very quickly. I know that I speak quickly, so whenever I do any form of sort of formal speaking, I have to slow my pace right down. So as a general rule, you want to be speaking about 100, maybe 120 words per minute. And that's a really good way of ensuring that you speak slowly. And it's good because it allows the audience to actually follow what you're saying, particularly if your audience might be taking notes, you're speaking slow enough that they can take accurate notes. And secondly, when you speak slower, you sound less flustered, you sound more authoritative, and it just gives you that little bit more command when it comes to your presentation. Um, I was talking about sort of rapport as well, and one of the best ways that you can build rapport with the audience is by maintaining eye contact throughout. Now, obviously, we're on Zoom and everyone's been delivering their presentations on Zoom. So the best way to do that is to be actually looking at your screen, or even better, the little dot at the top. But if you're looking at the screen, that is almost the same as eye contact, or as close as you're going to get in a virtual setup. And some of the problems people were encountering is, saw one person that was looking around the room, some other people were looking at their notes. And the problem when you're looking at notes is it breaks that rapport. It's almost like you're reading something at the audience rather than speaking with them. So the key thing that you want to do in advance is really practice. So if you've drafted some sort of form of presentation, practice it several times beforehand. It means that you're not going to be reliant on notes, so you can have that eye contact. But it also means that your presentation is going to be less wooden, it's going to be more dynamic, and therefore your audience are more likely to actually pay attention to what you're saying. Throughout the presentation as well, I saw a few people make good use of a pause. So if they were making a significant point, they'd throw a pause in after that point as well. So that was just a really good way of sort of adding effect to what they were saying, and it really points out, right, this is my significant point, pause, and then it forces the audience to have a little think for a few seconds about the point that you've just made. And then lastly, we move on to sort of the conclusions within the presentations as well. And it's very easy to say, well, in conclusion, I'm going to say, in summary, that sometimes that's a little bit on the nose for how you bring it to a conclusion. I listened to one presentation, and somebody said, well, overall, the key takeaway point is, and I thought that was a nice way of leading into the summary. And then right at the end, when you come into finish your presentation, the last sentence, I like it to be short and snappy, not too long, and the final sort of takeaway message, because that's the last thing that whomever you're speaking to, that's the last thing that they're going to take away. So nice, short, snappy call to action, as it were, is a good way to round up your presentation. So I hope you found those tips helpful.